Pardon, excusez-moi. Je me permettais de parler. Oui, on peut.
Super. Merci.
Je vais remercier à deux personnes et puis on va bientôt pouvoir commencer.
J'imagine qu'on va partager ces livres.
Oui. Ouais. Ah, c'est l'autre. Tu vois, c'est bon. Je te laisse. Tiens, tu sais, soit tu tapes Jeff, soit tu changes. Attends, est-ce que j'ai de la musique? Stream. Marie-Antoine. Je pense qu'elle est juste allée.
Elles sont trop bien.
Non, non, attends.
Je suis dans la même chose. So we will start, and some people might just arrive later. We'll leave the door open. So esteemed panelists and distinguished guests, it's my pleasure to welcome you today to the GEAF Global Summit for Change, focusing on innovation in the field of climate change and sustainability. We would also like to extend a warm welcome to all our online attendees. It's broadcasted on all our channels. So if you have comments, don't hesitate, type them in the chat and we will try to answer to them. So I am Baptiste Paldino, Head of Geneva Office and Projects at the Green Earth Action Foundation, and I will be moderating this session. So to give you a quick overview of today's session, I will start by introducing our foundation and the objective of the summit we are having today. We will then have our most important part, the panel discussion, before having a quick Q&A session for questions in the room and online. For the in-person attendees, we will conclude with a light networking lunch right after the session. So before we dive into the topic, I would like to introduce our foundation briefly. We are the Green Earth Action Foundation, a UNEP-accredited international non-profit organization based in Geneva. Our mission is to empower young people and communities to lead impactful and sustainable actions. GEAF was founded in 2023 in response to the urgent need for systemic, inclusive, and forward-looking approaches to the global climate crisis. We are guided by the values of the United Nations and the SDGs, and our mission is to advance sustainability by building environmental awareness and developing the next generation of informed and engaged leaders. One of our key projects to bring this vision to reality is our GEAF Ambassador Program, in which each year we train young leaders on several topics. It goes from biodiversity to waste management, also education and awareness. So we train these people for 6 months and they end up delivering an important environmental plan in their communities that supports the local needs. And we also run smaller scale awareness initiatives, such as this forum where we are today, the GEAF Global Summit for Change, where we highlight the key issues, the key challenges, but also the solutions when it comes to sustainability and climate change mitigation. I would like to give just a couple of words on the topic today before we open our panel discussion. So of course we all know and we all see that there is a huge rise of technologies, like artificial intelligence, for instance. We see that it's almost everywhere. It goes from health to security or human rights. It's also something we can apply to the field of climate change and sustainability. Just last week, for instance, at the COP30 in Brazil, governments, organizations, and civil society highlighted the role of technology in helping communities to adapt and to combat climate impacts. With rising temperatures and very frequent disasters, it's clear that the urgency has never been greater and we need to act. In this context, of course, there are some emerging technologies that are real potential game changers. But while they offer promising opportunities, they come with trade-off. We have a lot to explain on this, but we can just take the example of AI. It can monitor the risk, it can optimize the resources, but yet we have lots of concerns regarding its environmental footprint, its social, economic, and ethical impact. So to help us better understand how technology has been perceived and debated in the context of climate change, I would like to show you a little film that was made by the GEAF and some member of the community that provides different perspectives on the topic.
The world stands at a pivotal crossroads. Climate impacts are accelerating, yet innovation is advancing faster than ever. Today, the question is no longer whether change is needed, but how we can shape it together.
Across our world,
1/3 of all food produced is lost or wasted, while millions still go hungry. It's a crisis that drains resources, fuels emissions, and undermines global food security. Meanwhile, more than 11 million tons of plastic enter our oceans every single year. From turtles trapped in waste to microplastics in our body, the consequences are everywhere. But around the world, groundbreaking innovation is reshaping how we respond. AI is predicting expiration dates, redirecting surplus food, and improving supply chains. Technologies are capturing ocean plastics before they spread, and recycling systems are becoming smarter and more efficient. These are solutions that don't just reduce waste, they redesign the way our world works. According to the United Nations Trade and Development, the market for green and frontier technologies could rise from $1.5 trillion in 2020 to more than $9.5 trillion by 2030. A historic opportunity to decarbonize industries, transform cities, and build circular resource-efficient economies. But opportunity alone is not enough. As the United Nations Environmental Programme Adaptation Gap Report warns, developing countries still need nearly $387 billion every year to meet their climate adaptation goals. The world has solutions, but collaboration must accelerate. As global electricity demand continues to surge, the need for sustainable energy systems has never been more urgent. Floating solar farms, integrated renewables, and emerging storage technologies are leading us toward a cleaner, more resilient energy future. Artificial intelligence is already transforming what's possible. AI-powered energy management systems are optimizing renewable grids, reducing waste, and lowering emissions, proving that technology can accelerate the global transition we urgently need. At Green Earth Action Foundation, we believe the future is built by those who innovate, who collaborate, and who choose action over hesitation. From food systems to oceans, from energy to emerging technologies, our community is advancing solutions across every front. But innovation alone is not enough. Strong policies, bold decisions, and inclusive frameworks are essential to empower change, scale solutions, and ensure no one is left behind. And this year, the world comes together in Geneva, a global capital of diplomacy, innovation, and environmental leadership, a place where ideas become action and collaboration drives real-world change. The challenges are immense, but our collective power is greater. Together, we can build systems that are efficient, equitable, and sustainable. Together, we can shape a world that future generations will thrive in. Join us, be the change.
Thank you for your attention. It is precisely to explore these opportunities and these challenges we are talking about that we are here today with our experts. So now comes the most exciting part. It is my great pleasure to introduce our panel for the summit today. So let's begin by welcoming Ms. Marie-Antoinette Micheli. Marie-Antoinette Micheli is the president of the Green Alliance Switzerland, where she leads national programs like Organic for All and the Swiss Canopy. She works at the crossroads of sustainable food systems, biodiversity, and soil regeneration. She helped communities and policymakers to turn science into concrete action. As a global change expert, city councillor in Satigny, and author of The Force of the Living, Marie-Antoinette brings a practical and systemic perspective to strengthening ecological resilience in Switzerland. Thank you very much, Marie-Antoinette, for being here with us today. We are also honored to welcome Dr. Professor Irina Sotnik, who is a professor and a senior scientific collaborator at the University of Geneva Renewable Energy System Group and professor at SUNY State University in Ukraine. Her work focuses on energy efficiency, renewable energy development, and just transition. She holds both a PhD and a Doctor of Science in Environmental Economics, and she led or contributed to more than 30 research projects. She has received multiple distinctions, including the Ukrainian Cabinet of Minister Prize, a Fulbright Scholarship, and the Latvian State Research Scholarship. Thank you very much, Professor Sotnik, for being here with us today. And finally, it is my pleasure to have with us today Ms. Clarisse Empo-Ramazina Abogay. Thank you very much, Clarisse, for being here with us today. Clarisse is the Partner Engagement Specialist for WIPO Green, the World Intellectual Property Organization initiative, promoting the global diffusion of green technologies. She leads partnerships around the world, coordinates many regional networks, and manages even the Ambassador Program to mobilize leaders in sustainable innovation. Thank you very much, Clarisse, for being here with us today. Oops, sorry, I just realized I forgot to switch the slides. We will now be able to start our panel discussion. So over the next 40 minutes, we will explore both the challenges and opportunities in driving sustainable change, hear insights from our experts, and uncover actionable solutions for a greener future. So as we begin, it is helpful to set the stage by looking how technology has been understood in the context of climate change. Technology transfer has been central to global climate negotiation since UNFCCC was established in 1992. It involves not only sharing equipment, but also the knowledge, skills, and capacity that countries, especially developing countries, need to mitigate and adapt to climate change. So I would like now to turn into something more practical on the ground by exploring the role of public actors in supporting businesses and households on this thematic. So I would like to ask our first question to Dr. Professor Irina Sotnik. So we have seen that your work examines sustainable energy transformations in enterprise and households. So what concrete actions can government take to support businesses and the population in their green transition? But they also need to promote accountability and reduce energy poverty. So that's very challenging.
Thank you for this question. Hello, everyone. Yeah, that's really a problem, how we can support households, how can we support businesses in their
aims to reach the sustainability and implement this sustainability development practices. For me, as I have an economic background, for me the main thing to do is to provide the right economic incentives to encourage people and businesses to implement these technologies. These are really useful technologies. But besides economic incentives, we all understand that even if we have money, but we have no knowledge about these technologies, if we have no how it's going, what the process of applying these technologies, how to maintain them, how to use them in our ordinary life, of course it will be a problem. And for this, there are different directions that I should mention in order to implement these sustainable technologies. The first one, of course, this is the political framework for governments, because we need to install the rules to play in this game. So the government should provide the favorable environment, not only with regulation, but also with economic incentives. For example, to encourage low-income households, small businesses, medium businesses to implement these technologies. Also, it's very important to introduce the information campaign, informing the public about the opportunities to implement different technologies in different spheres, and of course help with advice how to do all these things. And what's more, it's very important to involve all levels, all hierarchical levels of management, including regional authorities, local authorities, national governments, and of course international support, because it's very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Sodnik. If we look more closely and take the example of Switzerland, so as a country with a federal structure, a significant part of the climate policy and project implementation happens at the local level. So with this in mind, I would like to ask to Mrs. Marie-Antoinette Micheli, what role do you think communities and municipalities can play in climate resilience? And how can local governments effectively support these bottom-up initiatives?
Thank you very much, Batista, for having me and for asking me this question. I am the founder of two Swiss initiatives with the Green Swiss Alliance that you mentioned. The two initiatives, one called the Swiss Canopy, and the other one Organic for All. Their aim is, first of all, to provide sustainable, healthy, pesticide-free food to everyone, no matter their income. And the other one is the idea to tackle climate change negative effects on our country's capability of producing the food that we need. I'm also at the municipal level a municipal councillor, so I have concrete actions on municipal level, and I know that it is essential for municipalities to enable communities to change. So what I'm doing here in Satigny, actually, that's the community I live, is to promote and to shift the school meals, for example, to make them become sustainable, organic, local, and seasonal, which changes obviously the health for the kids. And this is also something that should be going into hospitals, actually into any public institution, because health goes throughout food, and we need to empower communities to become self-sufficient and reliable on seasonal food that is local and organic. We have a very good example of that already in Meran. They have the municipality has bought a farm, and they are now providing the meals for the school, which is local, seasonal, and organic. So we know that it's just a matter of decision. The costs are provided by the municipality. This is a decision. So we know that politics have a big influence on what is actually happening. And it's very crucial because locally is where people are having the biggest effect themselves. They vote for the people they elect, and they can choose on what kind of policy they want to support. I also support an NGO called Women Smile Uganda, Women Grow Initiative in Uganda. They do vertical farming in cities, so they provide also organic food to families, but not only to feed them, but also to prevent them with an economical income. So we see that the local municipal work is essential to empower communities and to have inclusive and regenerative food for all of them. Yes, that's what I can say about this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marie-Antoinette. It's true that the local environment is extremely important because it's where individuals evolve and spend their life, basically. So it's clear that countries can take significant actions and decisions at the national level to support development for adaptation of green technologies, since there are many things we can do. However, as we all know, climate change is a global challenge. It requires solutions that sometimes, and most of the time, go beyond national border. So at WIPO, with the focus, of course, at first on intellectual property, the key actor in this field is WIPO Green. And WIPO Green has demonstrated that organization can drive global collaboration in the field. So Clarisse, as you currently work with WIPO Green, I would like maybe to ask you first if you can briefly explain what WIPO Green is and how WIPO Green is supporting the development and the global diffusion of green technologies. And I think you will also mention, of course, the role of the Green Technology Book, since it has been published and talked about a lot in the recent past weeks. Over to you, Clarisse.
Thank you, Batiste. I hope everyone can hear me online and also here in the room. So my name is Clarisse Flores-Naboji, and as Batiste mentioned, I am the Partnership Engagement Specialist for the World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO Green Platform. WIPO Green has been founded in 2013 to bridge the gap between technology providers, so people, innovators who have the technologies, the green technologies in the world, and communities who need them. And we're doing that through our database. We have a database of 140,000 green technologies. It's the biggest UN database of green technologies. So we invite you all to visit it, explore it. We have green technologies across sectors, across the food sector, the energy sector, the mobility sector, the building sector. Every sector is represented in our database. Our database contains patents, since we're the WIPO, the IP organization. So some of the entries in our database are patents, which are innovations that have been protected by the innovators, and they are sharing the patent information in our database, but we also have 6,000 of these entries that are real solutions in the market already and accessible and available. So the aim is really to connect innovators not only to communities in need, but also investors, governments, any person who is seeking these technologies. And I think it comes back to what Professor Irina was saying about information sharing, capacity building, ensuring that people know that these technologies exist. This is why WIPO Green has been created in the first place. But WIPO Green is more than a database. We also have various resources, such as you mentioned, the Green Technology Book, which I will show you all, the latest edition that was just launched at COP30 in Belém 2 weeks ago, I believe. And we also have another edition that we published. So this year we actually published 2 editions, which is quite rare. We usually only publish 1. And the author of the Expo 25 edition is here in the room. So if you have questions about it, and it's somewhere also on the tables here, please do go to my colleague Natasha, who's here. But the aim of this Green Technology Book is to provide a collection of technologies for a specific topic. So our first edition was on climate mitigation technologies. The second edition was on climate adaptation technologies. The third edition was around the solutions for energy efficiency. And this special edition on Expo 25 that we published in October in Japan for Expo 25 also focuses on energy solutions, but the technologies are mainly focusing in the Asia-Pacific region. This edition, very timely, is the solutions for confronting climate disasters, such as floods, fires, wildfires, any kind of climate extreme events that we see are happening more and more in the current times. We've seen the storm Melissa just devastate Jamaica just a few weeks ago. So these solutions are there to help prepare countries against these extreme climate events. So the aim is really, again, to share information on what technologies are out there to help countries, communities, businesses to prepare themselves for the current global challenge that we're facing, climate change. At its core, White Green is about collaboration and access. So through our online database, we match technology providers and seekers, the resources, they share information, but the aim is really to create a network. So we also, and that's why I'm here, I'm working specifically on partnerships. We are trying to bridge the gap. So we have all these resources, but we also need to make sure they are known. So we work with IP offices around the world. We also work with businesses. We have our ambassador program with leading industry leaders across various countries to try and really promote the resources that we have. And finally, a very key activity that we have is our acceleration projects. And those acceleration projects are in currently 12 countries around the world. We have some in Brazil, Argentina, Laos, Indonesia, India, China. And what we do in those acceleration projects is we implement green technologies. We connect with local communities. We identify their needs for green solutions. We hire local consultants that understand the context, understand these communities, and they use the database to find the right solutions. Usually there are local solutions, but they are in the database, or they will upload them if they see that they were not in the database. And then we try and create that matchmaking opportunity and the implementation, the deployment of green technology. We really believe that the green technology transfer requires a lot of help, a lot of effort, and local communities, businesses, farmers, people in need of these technologies don't necessarily have the time or the capacity to do that. So we try through these acceleration projects to support these matchmaking efforts and the deployment of these green technologies. So those are our acceleration projects. And in a nutshell, that's what we do at White Green. Thank you for the question.
Thank you very much, Clarisse.
Thank you very much. It's impressive, I would say, to hear about first the goal of White Green, but also the achievements and the ambition it has. So I can imagine it's not easy to bring all these people together, to build such a database, and to put this kind of projects in place. So I would like to ask you, what are the main challenges you think are existing in connecting governments, innovators, investors, and communities, because in the end, they are the ones benefiting from this, through the White Green platforms?
So the biggest challenge that we're facing sometimes is alignment. Each stakeholder has different priorities. We tend to work a lot with farmers in our Latin America projects. And what we tend to see is that they would love to implement the technology, but maybe they do not have the funds, or they do not have the understanding of how the technology will work and if it will really affect positively their yield. And when it comes to farming or agriculture, as you know, it's seasonal and there's not a lot of risk that can be taken because then they lose their whole yields, right? So producers are very risk averse. And when it comes to deploying new technologies, it's always a matter of aligning with these stakeholders. So making sure that there's dialogue, that there's trust, that we bring them on, and that we have stakeholders in front of us, like the local communities that I'm mentioning, that are willing to try these implementation, these new technologies, and that they are willing to put the efforts to make sure that that the deployment is successful. So they will get the trainings, they will get the learning, they will get this green technology, this trusted green technology consultant next to them that we're bringing on board to help them with this green technologies transfer, the deployment, the implementation. So alignment is key, building trust is key. working together, collaborating is key. I would say it's similar with policymakers, investors, really bringing people on the table together and aligned is critical to make sure that it's a successful deployment of green technologies.
Thank you very much, Clarice. I have no doubt that the list of challenges is probably very long. Of course, there are a lot we will discuss about now, and I think it's one of the most important and interesting part when we discuss this specific topic. There are lots of risks, there are lots of trade-offs, which we should not ignore, and we need to discuss them. Also, because climate change is global, and in the end, we will all be involved in this. So, Professor Irina, I would like to ask you, at the national level, prioritizing green technologies can sometimes mean diverting attention and resources from other sectors, which are key as well. So, do you have examples of situations where a push for a green tech has led to trade-offs, maybe, or maybe consequences in other areas of the policy?
Okay, thank you very much. Very interesting question, because it's really so. When we try to ameliorate something, sometimes we have another negative consequences in other areas. Yeah, and it's really true. For example, one of the trade-offs of the so-called dematerialization technologies, when we try to reduce the use of resources somewhere, the adverse effect that we have, this is the rise of consumption of other resources, or even resources that we are aimed to optimize. So how it works? Because, for example, if we try to save resources and we try to reduce their consumption, it means, for example, for the population, if they can optimize resource consumption, it means that they can save a bit on it, and it means that they can spend this money, save money, for other, for consumption of other resources. And this is like a vicious cycle, how we can implement in, for example, resource-saving technologies. In general, we can increase the resource consumption, not exactly of this resource, but of other resources. And this is a paradox, but it exists. For example, if we try to reduce consumption of some resources in a more sustainable way, we can involve other resources, not so sustainable, and increase their consumption. For example, if we try to digitalize our life, implementing like computers in our life, electronic monitoring, and so on, it means that we need more electronic equipment to do this. And it means, in a sequence, that we need more computers, we need to produce more electronic equipment for this. And it's this industry, it's not so sustainable. And because of this, we have exactly the paradox. When we try to reduce, to implement sustainability practices, we have the adverse effects. Yeah, what's more, for example, talking about energy sector, for example, if we introduce renewable energy solutions and we try to widespread the solar PV panels or maybe other forms like bioenergy and others, again, we can come to the problem how to balance the energy system, because, for example, solar, wind power, they are not sustainable in terms of generating electricity, and it means that we need to support the balance within the system with hard coal capacities. So, of course, it means that we need to involve more coal in order to implement renewable energy systems. And it's again a paradox. What's more, one more example that I can give you. For example, this is a problem of energy poverty, which deals with the implementing of renewable energy sources. Again, another paradox. Because, for example, if we introduce renewable energy systems, which are more expensive than traditional one, conventional one, it means that the overall price of the electricity regarding the share of electricity, of green electricity, will rise. And it means more expenses for households, for businesses, for using this electricity. And again, it can lead to negative social effects as well. So it's only just a short list of negative trade-offs, but in reality, it's too long. And sometimes we may expect to something strange effects that we don't think about, but they really may take place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Irina, for highlighting the challenges and the consequences that sometimes can happen in the field. I think one thing that you slightly talked about at the end was the fact that some trade-offs might remain invisible until the implementation. And that's probably a very hard part of how we can make everything better and how we can improve the situation without harming some communities or biodiversity, any kind of individual in the field. So with this, I think there is a very important example which I think we all more or less heard about, but it's the water efficient irrigation technologies. They can help to sustain agricultural practices and support food security in a drier climate. However, their efficiency may also be an incentive for farmers to expand the cultivation of water-intensive crops. So we are here reaching a trade-off because overall we will end up with an increase of freshwater extraction, and we will increase the possibility of having vulnerable conditions, especially in areas where everything is very dry and when we have drought very often. So I would like to ask to Marie-Antoinette, in food systems, certain technologies, such as the one we discussed, can unintentionally encourage environmentally harmful practices. So historically, how have these solutions sometimes exacerbated vulnerabilities instead of reducing them?
Thank you for the question. Can you? So many agricultural technologies solve immediate problems, as we know, but they can also create long-term vulnerabilities. And regarding this efficiency question of irrigation, for example, while it saves water in a way, it can encourage monoculture, deplete soils, and reduce biodiversity. So we all know that similarly heavy fertilizers and pesticide use may boost yields in the short term, at the beginning, but it degrades ecosystems and creates dependency on chemical inputs. So this is exactly what we are addressing with the initiatives for Organic for All and the greening of the regions in Switzerland, because we are focusing on regenerative and nature-based solutions. Organic and regenerative agriculture is maintaining soil health, is enhancing biodiversity, and reducing reliance on external inputs, showing a practical alternative to short-term, high-risk solutions. It's really the principle of bringing back biodiversity and actually feeding the soils and making understand also to communities and to everyone that if the soils are in good shape and having a good health, our health is doing good as well. So there is a real need of a shift in mind of understanding that we need to have an agricultural policy that really goes to support our systems instead of making it more and more vulnerable. And what else? The example of Uganda I've mentioned before was this vertical permaculture. It's actually building community resilience and improving nutrition. So it is very much an approach that meets people's need without creating dependency or harming ecosystems. And the lesson is quite clear because with interventions we must respect ecological limits and social context. As you mentioned, it is very much also related to the geographic localization. Regenerative approaches, whether in Switzerland, in Uganda, or wherever else on Earth, strengthen resilience, and produce lasting benefits for both people and the planet. And to jump also on what you said, Clarissa, it's exactly the tools that we are providing and we are needing and actually should be accelerating everywhere to have a transition happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie-Antoinette. I think you very well mentioned the need for an alignment, and Clarisse also did. So what do you think would be the policy changes that we should see in order to align the food systems with climate goals, while of course ensuring accessibility, fairness, and a long-term soil health, because in the end that's the most important, to be able to have long-term systems.
So I believe there are three main shifts that are necessary. First of all, the procurement. Secondly, the true costs of what's going on with the externalities, and thirdly, the soil, as I've mentioned before. First of all, the procurement that we are providing to schools, hospitals, must be local, organic, and plant-based to the most possible degree. For example, we should reduce by half the production and the consumption of meat in our communities, which would already have a great impact on our footprint, and also reflect the true costs, reflecting environmental impacts and incentivize regenerative agriculture. These externalities should be reflected on the price of conventional foods that are not sustainable and not organic. So there would be adjustment for organic practices. It would actually create the opportunity and pay for the shift. It would give subventions to farmers to become organic. And this shift is actually what we need to get to tackle governments for. This is exactly the aim of these initiatives, to make governments actually become conscious that our food system needs to be supported by the government. It's not something that people can pay for. Organic food is not yet accessible to everyone, and this is a shame. We should make it as a human right to get access to healthy food, and not making people, oblige them to eat crop food and unhealthy food because they just cannot afford it. So I believe that there's a big shift also in the mind necessary. And first of all, we need to educate people, so to make them aware of the negative effects it has on their health and on the planet. So this is something governments should actually add to the program, educational program in schools, at universities, and canteens should on average not provide anything else than organic, local, seasonal food that is vegetarian most of the time. And for the soil, the infrastructure, we can say that the soil, if it is actually managed in a sustainable way and in a regenerative way, is capturing carbon. So we have really to use it as a tool, as an economic tool, because a field, say a hectare, that is producing conventional food is emitting 10 tons of carbon a year, and the same field producing regenerative agriculture is absorbing the same amount of CO2. So we really need to understand that our food system is actually aligned, our rather than to fight it with the pesticides and high incomes. And yes, so local policies and local action can really lead to sustainable, fair, and resilient systems.
Thank you very much, Marie-Antoinette. I think what you mentioned is extremely important. Food systems are at the center of our life. They have an impact on our health and on the planet. And one point you actually emphasize is extremely interesting, is that we need to continue raising awareness and have people that are well informed, individuals that are conscious about what is happening, what they eat, what they buy. So this is extremely difficult to put in place, and this is why we need the support of external entities and local entities as we evolve all better, for instance, in Geneva or in the city we live than at the other part of the world where sometimes we don't even have ideas of what is happening. So I would like to ask something to Clarisse, because we have seen that sometimes there can be some technologies who benefit some groups while negatively affect some others. I think this is one of the key trade-offs, and it can't come, we can't talk about the topic without mentioning this one. So in light of these trade-offs, how would you say White Green ensures that the technologies promoted on the platform or in this green technology book, for instance, are safe, context appropriate, and beneficial in the long term?
Thank you for the question. So with White Green, because we're a UN agency, we define green technologies with the UN definition. And the UN definition that was developed in the context of Agenda 21 is that they are the environmentally sound technologies protect the environment, are less polluting, they use resources sustainably, they help recycle more of their waste and products, and they handle residual waste in a more acceptable way than their substitute technologies. So based on this definition, it's our North Star. We screen every single technology that is uploaded in our database before publication. We have a small and nimble team doing this work, but the idea is to ensure that the technologies that are uploaded fit this definition. Unfortunately, we're not able to test each technology because we are, again, a nimble, small team. But the idea is to ensure that these technologies are visible to the world. And then, of course, we request the innovators that upload the technologies to be responsible with what they are posting on our database, because they know this is a credible platform of green technologies and that we are supporting member states around the world. So they need to ensure that their technologies fit the description that we have set on the green technologies that need to be in our database, but we are not testing them. What we are doing is that we are, through our acceleration project, ensuring that the technologies that we deploy are the right solution for the problem that they are facing, the challenges that they are facing, that they are context specific, because it's very important, and that of course they fit the needs that the communities, the local communities we're supporting have. So that's how we kind of ensure there's inclusivity in the way that the green technology are being deployed. And with our technology books, we try to share and promote the best technologies and the best practices that are available for a specific topic. So as I mentioned, there was climate mitigation solutions, climate adaptation solutions. These solutions for confronting climate disasters, there are some frontier technologies. So those that we see are coming on the market and that have strong potential for impact. And so we do this analysis in-house. And so the collection of technologies that are in our green technology books have been reviewed, and we also work with other UN agencies and other partners to ensure that the contents of our green technology book are credible and impactful. So I guess that's how to answer your question. I do want to mention we have nature-based solutions in our database, in our green technology books. They're very important, especially in this one. When it comes to resilience, nature-based solutions are quite important. But we also have high-tech drones, technologies, satellite imagery, flood monitoring technologies. So it goes through the spectrum of technologies. There's low-tech, there's high-tech.
Thank you very much, Clarisse. I think it is a very good note to conclude slightly the discussion. All the projects and initiatives you mentioned leave me personally hopeful, and I think they are very inspiring. Also, I really appreciate the fact that you mentioned the inclusivity and the inclusion that is needed on this topic. This is one of our key pillars at the foundation. And also, what you mentioned is something that is at the service of communities. There is this bottom-up approach, which, in my opinion, is the one that could potentially bring the best results, because it directly comes from the people who will receive it. That being said, we are already coming towards the end of the discussion. So I would like to maybe conclude with the final questions for our panel. So we have discussed many challenges, many trade-offs, but I don't want you to leave this room with a very negative image and bad atmosphere. So I would like to ask our panelists, what are your hopes for the future? So despite all the things we discussed, despite all the things we all see in our day-to-day work, what would you say are your hopes for the future? Whoever wants to feel inspired.
Thank you for this question. It's very urgent, of course, because now there are a lot of problems that we need to solve actually. And from my point of view, we need to continue implementing our practices in managing, in different technologies and so on. But within this process, we need to combine different policies, incentives, which are targeted different groups of people, communities, businesses, and so on. We need to create the practices, the technologies, the policies, which exactly targeted at different groups of stakeholders. And it will really help to improve the attitude, the perception of different technologies, the effect, of course, of the implementation. What's more, there are several facts that inspired me and hoping for the best. For example, this is a fact that according to the renewable energy investment book, which like a report for every year, the global renewable energy investment show that developing countries invest in renewable energy technologies more than developed countries. And it's really nice fact that confirm that we are moving in the right direction, actually. And what's more, for last several years, the investments in renewable energy globally increase and exceed the investment in conventional technologies. And it's also very nice to have. What else? Of course, the global collaboration in this topic and sharing the best practices, for example, those that are here in the Green Technology book, will inspire and will help different communities, regions, countries to spread these successful practices. And exactly the international collaboration can give the opportunity for third world countries to implement the best practices that will be profitable for all in terms of the global context. So integrating awareness of new technologies, integrating policies targeted for different groups of stakeholders, and integrating economic incentives will bring us to our goal. Thank you.
So if I may, I think I really agree with what Professor Irina just said. I also wanted to, because we have to end up in a positive note, right? You mentioned in the video that you just showed at the beginning of the session here that there's an adaptation report and a gap of 300 billion US dollars. Finance is quite a strong challenge when it comes to deploying green technologies worldwide. We've seen it in our acceleration projects. We've seen it in the conversations that we have that finance is an issue. But at COP30, we also saw the launch of the Tropical Forest Finance Facility with now, I think, over $1 billion of committed funds. We also saw that the member states, the delegates, they came together, they discussed adaptation fund. They didn't get to a very quick result, but they are going to be launching a tripling of the fund by 2035, I believe. So that's what they are discussing now. So we're seeing more and more finance flowing, and I think that's very positive because ultimately, if we really want to have this transition, if we really want to respond to climate change in the way that is necessary and efficient, we will need the finance. And the finance will need to be removed from somewhere, to go somewhere else. So I just invite you all in our daily lives to already use your money. You have power. You have a vote, so that's one, but you have money. So make sure to use your money sustainably in sustainable practices and invite your governments to also do the same. Vote for the right policies, the sustainable policies that can incentivize more implementation of green technologies for a sustainable future for all. I think we all have a role to play.
To jump on what you just said, Clarice, and please support this kind of initiatives if you're a Swiss citizen or if you want us to share it with your Swiss family, friends, whoever, because I truly believe there is an incredible push that we can all have on individual level, exactly as you've mentioned, depending on the government we are choosing and electing, depending on the food we are daily choosing to buy and to feed ourselves with. We can push on our communities to ask their municipalities to do exactly this kind of project that we are planning to do in my municipality. There are many examples around the world actually that are shifting toward this direction. So this gives me a lot of hope that we can achieve more and better, just making people aware of their own capacity to move the system. It's a collective action that we need. And this is exactly what we're trying to do with the Swiss initiative, where actually the whole population is going, hopefully, to vote on this shift that is very much needed. I mean, we're a very rich country, and if Switzerland is not able to do the shift, who else is going to be? With the idea of keeping in mind and creating a kind of twin farms within other European countries and also globally, as I mentioned, the Ugandan example, I trust it's important that Europe sees if Switzerland is launching such initiatives, there is a push and there is a need that we do that everywhere. And Europe is just such an incredibly, it's a continent that has brought our lifestyle to so many other places, and we should be the model, the role model to change, to shape the system. And I really believe we're not far from making it happen. It's just a matter of decision that is going maybe to happen over the next 2-3 years, if possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our panelists. It was a very interesting and rich discussion that we had today. Not enough time, as usual. There are so many things to cover, so we try to focus on the most important one. I am sure you have many questions. We have received several online, so I would like to take these few minutes more to open the floor to our audience in the room. I will also try to integrate some questions, but I will kindly ask our panelists to respond in a limited time frame to be able to take as many as possible. In the room, anyone has any question? Yes, please feel free to unmute your mic and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the submissions, really nice and insights shared. My question would be directed to Clarice, especially on the database and the green text that are being pushed out there. So in your submission, you mentioned that you don't really have a way to test these green tech that are uploaded on the database. And you are sort of trusting that those who upload it will do their own due diligence. So my question is, what systems or frameworks do you have in place to ensure that they actually do what they're supposed to do, so that their green tech actually meets the definition of the UN, and to also keep them accountable? Thank you.
Yes, so thank you for your question. So just to keep it short, we do screen every single upload before publication. And the technology, the innovator that is uploading the technology has to provide very detailed information about the technology, as well as the website, contact information. And if we have questions, we contact them and we start a dialogue to ensure that the description is clear and fits the format that we have for the database, but also that the technology is understood first by us before it gets published in the database. If we have questions, if we do not have questions, then the uploader is allowed to publish the technology upon screening, where we screen every single one to ensure that it fits the definition.
Thank you very much. Yes, we can take the answer and then we'll take your question. Thank you. In the middle. Ah, yes, working.
Thank you very much. Innovations and intellectual property systems were ignored in the international negotiation on climate change. And after being ignored, they were excluded. Finally, recognized nowadays, they're always a place for IP and innovation. So, how GEF, the Initiative for Ambassadors, you are planning your future for training your future ambassadors on that issue? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So we are doing this ambassador program because we believe leaders, young leaders especially in communities, have the biggest role to play when it comes to climate change in general, but they are also the best one to put in place projects that would make sense and have the greatest impact. So I want to give so many examples of previous ambassadors we had and what they achieved. But it was a hard decision, but we had to focus on 5 thematic areas because you can cover all the ones that are in the field of climate change. But when we talk about marine, like they are cleaning some areas, for instance, or they are cleaning some slums in Nigeria. We had some people also collecting fabric waste and transforming it into school bags for the kids in IDP, so in camps where we have displaced people. We also have people who decide to focus more on the educational phase and awareness. So they decide to organize workshops, organize conferences, or even to go directly to the communities and teach them. We have one future project, which I hope we can put in place, which is about teaching globally how food is important and what we can do in this field as communities. Of course, we all have different means and we are not all at the same level. This is not what we ask for. But we ask people to do what they can at their level to start supporting. And of course, it goes from composting to reducing waste to also having, we have something that is about smart agriculture. So having plants that are resilient and that will survive basically and adapt to the local climate. So in a nutshell, I could speak I think for a very long time about this, but I don't want to take too much from our panelists. So in case you have, of course, further questions, all the information are on our website, and we are soon concluding the applications for our ambassador program, so don't hesitate. Thank you very much. I hope I answered.
Maybe I can add one thing. Because you mentioned IP and innovation, and how is GEAF going to be working on that? Maybe we can work together on training these young ambassadors about the role of IP in technology transfer, because it's quite important.
I think that will be very complementing.
It was my wish and your expression.
This is a perfect audience. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you so much for such an insightful session. I do have a few questions. The first question is to Clarisse, please. And today you mentioned a lot that it is very hard to find the alignment between the agendas of the different stakeholders. So my question is, what approach do you use when it comes to create the bridge between the deployment of the climate solutions and with the humanitarian actors in the field, especially when it comes to the emergency response? Thank you.
Yes, so we do not have acceleration projects specifically on emergency response at the moment. Our acceleration projects currently focus on, so we have one in China, is mostly on energy storage for electric vehicles. We have some projects in Latin America focusing on agriculture, so supporting farmers with various issues that they have with their crops and on their fields. We have some projects specifically on coffee in Laos, and supporting growers to ensure their harvests are more are protected. So those kind of projects, they do not link to emergency situations. This book provides the technologies that countries can use to prepare themselves, but we have not had the situation where we needed to have alignment on this specific situation. But I think if we were to do that, every local context requires local solutions. So it wouldn't be a one-size-fits-all, oh, let's just bring people together, and it will be collaboration with the local actors, and we tend to work with IP offices in countries, so to try and understand what would be the best approach, and then we'll try to have more inclusive processes. But depending on the context, of course, it will look different. So that's how I would answer to your question.
Beautiful, thank you so much. And I also have another question to Marie-Antoinette, please. You mentioned that, you mentioned a lot about strengthening the resilience tools. And I wanted to ask you to kindly a little bit elaborate on which tools exactly, how do they work, and yeah, basically, thank you.
So when we talk about permaculture, this is what you mean. We generate actually the conditions that are necessary for our soils and for biodiversity to collaborate in order to have less need of irrigation, less need of work, and it comes with itself that nature-based approaches are very practical solutions because they are autosufficient, and it's related to all the damage that has been done globally with the agriculture, with the intensive agriculture. We are getting from this kind of tools which have overused massively our soils. We know on a scientific level that these soils that have been completely depleted of life actually don't have many more yields left. We talk about 40 yields maybe. So we are really in a situation where food security becomes a huge subject. And there are many places in the world where actually the soils are no more fertile. So we're seeing that obviously with the Sahel and the desertification process that is accelerating also this problem. There are many places around the world that are actually planting, and the canopy I truly believe is a real solution to tackle exactly this this problem. Because trees have roots. Roots go deep to search for nutrients and for water. So if we plant trees around, let's say just around cities, it creates a tool that is actually declining the temperatures. And at the same time, you must know that forests, if they're growing, they are emitting water vapor, so they're actually having a direct impact on the climate. Because if we're increasing our amount of trees in a country, we are increasing the capacity of rainfall. So all those natural tools are real tools that need to be used in order to make us become more resilient, if that answers your question.
Thank you so much.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you for the insightful discussions today. My question is to Professor. You were mentioning earlier that innovative green technology can sometimes be expensive. So my question is, what mechanism can ensure that green technologies reach low-income and climate-vulnerable communities or countries, developing countries per se, without creating any barrier to access? Is there any mechanism that you can share with us?
Thank you for the question, very interesting one. I would give you one example from the Bangladesh, where there was a Grameen Bank, so-called, like a village bank, founded by the Nobel Prize laureate Muhammad Yunus. And the concept there was to create and spread microfinancing credits, loans. And following this concept, the Grameen Bank arrives to the point when it gives the microcredits exactly, for example, for implementing renewable energy sources and technologies in the villages where they are remote. And due to this, thanks to this, many families, the poorest one in the country, got an access to clean energy. So there was, thanks to these microcredits, they can buy the equipment, solar panels, install them, and even this bank offers the training programs with certificates in order to help people to maintain these solar panels. And this is a really bright example of how can we help the poorest communities to profit, to take advantage of this clean energy. And for other examples, of course, they are more widespread in the countries more developed because they have money to give subsidies. But still, there are a lot of communities in developing countries that can push the different environmentally friendly technologies on the basis of co-funding. So the certain share is comes from the side of community, and another share from the users of these technologies. And it's a really nice way to implement these sustainable practices. I hope I answered.
Yes, thank you very much. My next question is to Clarice. This is regarding what the WIP is working regarding to empower young innovators, researchers, and sustainable innovations or technologies.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I just recently came back from Algeria. I was on a mission last week to launch a green technology TISC network. And the TISC, because it's an acronym, is the Technology and Innovation Support Center. And it's a program that WIPO has started to bring together research institutions, universities, but also businesses, stakeholders that are driving innovation forward. And we aim to train them on IP and innovation and how they can use IP as a driver for more, innovation and technology transfer around the world. And this green technology TISC network will focus on supporting young innovators in deploying their green technologies. They will create some workshops and some training, a community of innovators in Algeria. And of course, they will be trained on WIPO Green, how to use the database to create more visibility for their technologies, how they can also upload their needs. Because one thing that I haven't mentioned is that our database is not a database only of green technologies, but also on needs. So if, for instance, you are in your country and you have a specific need for green technology because you're seeing that the way you're doing things is not the most sustainable, you can go to our database and upload your need. So that's a very great tool because then we will help with the matchmaking between your need and the green technology that fits this specific need. So our database is a great tool to ensure that the right innovations are deployed in the right locations where the needs are.
Thank you very much, Clarice, and thank you to all our panelists. Unfortunately, our time has come to an end, so we will have to conclude here. But I would like to thank you all for joining us today and initiating this discussion and this conversation with us. It was a pleasure, and thank you again to our panelists for this very insightful session. I would like also to thank all our online attendees. Thank you for joining us. I hope you've been able to follow the panel discussions and the questions. Anyway, this session is going to be uploaded on our platform soon, so you will be able to catch up in case you missed anything. And if you would like to stay in touch or learn more about the Green Reflection Foundation and our activity, please feel free to visit our website. And if you have questions, there is our email. As I mentioned, our ambassador program is currently in the application process phase. So in case you know anyone who would be interested and who would like to develop a plan that is impactful for the community, don't hesitate to reach out. So thank you very much. We wish you a wonderful afternoon. And for our in-person attendees, We are now pleased to invite you to have a short networking lunch outside of this room. So please feel free to help yourself, and I hope you can also discuss about the session, and don't hesitate if you have any questions. Thank you again.
Thank you. Very interesting.